Hello everyone and welcome to another one of my Verdict Day build videos. Today, instead of talking about one specific build and one specific build only, I'll actually be focusing on sort of like type slash class of builds. And that class is going to be autocannon tanks. The reason why I'm doing sort of like entire classes is because autocannon tanks are very versatile because the autocannons are just so good. So you have a lot of options and there's a lot of different ways to build them, and they're very interesting to work with. As you can see, I have two autocannons on the front. And so basically for this video I'm going to be talking about, or we're going to have two segments of the video more or less, but they're going to be together because I'm just going to transition from one to the other. And so basically in the first part I will be talking about autocannon tanks as a whole, what kind of things you can do with them, what they're good for, how to build them, how to use them, that kind of stuff. And then for the second part, I'm going to be talking about my specific autocannon tank, or my personal autocannon tank right here, which I named Glint Eater. And I'll be talking about why I made some of the strange choices that I did. So then, first thing, the most important thing about autocannon tank is the autocannon, obviously. And I still haven't bought another copy of these autocannons for some reason. I don't know why. I should. Anyway, so basically there's one really good autocannon, and the rest are okay. I mean, the rest of the autocannons are not bad, but this one right here, the AM-ACA 218, just completely outclasses the rest of them by a ridiculous amount. It's just so much better in almost every way, and it's just really good. And as an example of what kind of stuff we're dealing with here, autocannon is basically, if you think about it for 2 seconds, it's an automatic cannon, not a gun, not a machine gun, not some sort of automatic gun, not sort of automatic pistol or rifle or even like an LMG. It's a cannon. So you have a fully automatic cannon, and if you notice, this particular model of autocannon, whenever the fuck the model turns around, this particular thing has 4 barrels. So you basically, it's like you got 4 cannons, put them together, and said, all right, fire it at full auto, and that's what you have. And as you can imagine, the results are destructive, to say the least. And there's basically 2 ways, well, more 3 ways to build autocannons, or in particular this autocannon. The first and least popular way is to go full power. This will give you the least accuracy, but it'll also give you really good damage per second, and it'll reduce your overall range, but it'll give you really good damage per second, and you'll be hitting real hard. The second and slightly more popular way is full accuracy tune. And the reason for that is that it improves the muzzle velocity of the autocannon by a fair amount, and it also reduces the, or it increases the fire accuracy. And so what the fire accuracy does is it's basically just controlling your cone of fire. So the higher your fire accuracy is, the narrower your cone of fire is, and the more of your bullets are going to be flying towards what you're pointing at. If you have a very low fire accuracy, like 60 or lower usually, or no, actually not even 60 or lower, if you have like 50 or lower, then you're not going to be hitting much. So the 73 accuracy of the full accuracy cannons is pretty good. However, they also have lower damage and reduced range, which is kind of ironic considering they're more accurate. They also have a better reload time than the full power autocannons. Now, the final, and what I personally believe is the most popular, is the 1 power 2 accuracy tune. And this is basically just because it gets most of the advantages of having accuracy, but it also doesn't lose too much of the power, and so it maintains some of its range. And the reason why it maintains its range by having power is that Armored Core works in that the more power you have, the higher your optimal range is. And so optimal range is basically the range at which you start to lose power from your shots. So if we were to compare the full power autocannon to the full accuracy autocannon, you'll notice that the optimal range is reduced by quite a bit. Now, and then you can go back to the 1 power 2 accuracy one. It's not quite as bad, but you also get a lot of that muzzle velocity, which is good. But the main thing that's gained is the fire accuracy. So you're going from 62, which is pretty bad, to 68, which is less bad, and then from here, here you go all the way to 73, which is not bad at all. But since you're firing so many shells at the opponent, like, really your accuracy doesn't matter too much as long as you're close enough. It's just that the difference between 62 and 68 is that 62 is pretty much only good for close range, whereas 68 is good for medium range a little bit more, and 73 is obviously going to be a little more effective. So then we talked about the autocannons. So basically, the way that you typically use autocannons is by pretty much shoving them on a light tank and then telling the tank to run forward and shoot at things. It's not that complicated, really. That's why autocannons are so versatile, because they just do what they do really well, so you have a lot of leeway for the stuff you put around them. So usually, because autocannons are very accurate and they have pretty good lock-on speeds, or this particular autocannon at least, you usually want to put some sort of missile in the shoulder. KE missiles, CE missiles are both fine. KE missiles are a little more powerful, and they're more useful on tanks because tanks can support the weight of them more easily. You could also easily go for rockets, probably not flash rockets, but heat rockets and regular rockets are both good. Plasma missiles are pretty good. They're more specialized, but they are good. And then there's all the other silly stuff. CAWS I would not recommend on an autocannon tank because it's pretty much all about the offense with these tanks. You do or die. Auto attack guns are silly, but cool, I guess. It's basically if you want to have like a second autocannon, you want to have secondary autocannons to your autocannons. Reserve mag has a very specialized purpose for the single player mode, and where you're fighting some of the boss enemies by using autocannons. And a lot of times the best autocannons are just going to run out of ammo before you can kill the boss. And since the autocannons have such high DPS, you're fine bringing reserve mags. This is useful for the special Grey Lotus boss fight, where you fight like 5 or 6 of them, and it's also useful for the final boss of the story mode, black, whatever the fuck. So I'll talk about that later. Subcomputers are useless for autocannons. Energy amps are obviously useless because it's not an energy weapon. So basically, yeah, you just want more damage with autocannons usually. That's the easiest way to go about it. There are a few specialized cases where you could maybe go with like a CAWS or something like that, but for the most part you're just going to want more damage. Now for the bay units, these are pretty much whatever you feel like, as it is with most tanks, because most of the time once you've gone through your cannons you're either dead or whatever's in front of you is pretty much, you're so close to dead that it doesn't matter. So, excuse me. I personally am with a howitzer and a shield because I'm weird, but whatever. Also with autocannons you usually want dual shoulders. The two most popular dual shoulders are these AB-107D because they have better bulk and good defense, and the where is it? The Kocho Model 1, which is another dual shoulder. This one's a lot lighter, and the main advantage to this one is that it will have higher firing stability, which is debatable for cannons, but what it will do is it will affect your bay units a little more. So if you find yourself in need of your bay units, then this can help. These are also lighter if you're somehow running out of weight on a tank. And there's basically 3 good tank legs for autocannons. There's the LTA, which is a really good dependable tank leg. The LTB, although primarily the Salvador Keen is the one that gets used. And then you can also use Foolish or Funeral, maybe. And so the main reason you want to use those is because the LTB is faster, but it has decent defense still. The LTA is not as fast, but it has really good energy efficiency and good defenses. And then Foolish is just the crazy fast one that has no defense or anything else. And then for FCSs, there's one good FCS for autocannons, that is the FSL E28. Main reason being that autocannons lock on super fast anyway, and this also makes it easier to use missiles, which pair really well with autocannons. And so the FSL E28, with its large range, large size, and high missile performance, is basically going to give you the most DPS possible with autocannons. Generators, I'm not going to talk about that, there's only one good generator for tanks. And so yeah, that's the sort of the primer on how autocannons work and what they pair well with. Now I'm going to talk about specific types of builds for autocannons. Now basically the build is going to vary depending on what leg type you have and what you have in the shoulder. I have VTF missiles because I like the way they work. I think they do good damage. But there's a lot of different types of missiles that could function with this. High-speed missiles could work if you wanted to make it work. Vertical missiles could also work, depending on what kind of range you intend to fight at. If you want to use like the full accuracy autocannons, you want to fight at slightly longer ranges, then the vertical missiles will work pretty well. Jellyfish is a popular one. This one right here is cool if you want like maximum damage, but Jellyfish is a really good one. It's really easy to use. VTS are easy to use, but they're kind of short range because they're slow. And then the large missile is if you just want to go like full troll and you just want to bring maximum spike damage. Because if you look at the large missile stats, you'll see that it's doing 10,000 damage on a single shot. And if you're running dual slot shoulders, that means you're doing 20,000 damage worth instantly. Now the only problem is that these missiles, you know, they take a little while to get there, they're kind of slow to lock on. But if you have managed to hit someone with a double large missile, they're gonna know, and they're probably gonna be either dead or dying. So that's the real fun thing. And then combined with the autocannons, they probably won't have much of a chance to escape. For CE missiles, there's obviously short-range missiles. I would not recommend them because they're okay. For these, you would probably want to go for the stealth missiles because they have the higher ammo capacity and better damage, although they're not as accurate. Jailers, I believe, are actually not bad. I've heard a lot of good things about jailers, but I've never used them too much. I've had a hard time making them work. Now, one of the more interesting things is actually the AS missiles, which is kind of strange because you would think that you wouldn't want to use an AS missile when you already have an FCS that has such a good lock-on for missiles, and you also have a tank where you're trying to focus on DPS. But because of the way that they work, these AS missiles actually give you really good DPS, and it's kind of strange and surprising. And so basically what you do is I think you can either use these, the R24A, or the pretty much anyone that you feel like, really. And so what you do with these AS missiles is you build like a full suicide tank. And suicide tank sounds like a strange concept, but it's actually something that's been pretty effective, and I've seen it in action. And it's something that was originally made popular by some of the Japanese players on the PlayStation server, I'm pretty sure. And basically what you do is you get a tank, you give it max speed, max damage with the autocannons, or I mean, whatever damage you feel is worth it, like whatever tune the player prefers, and then you put AS missiles double slot in the shoulder. And what you're trying to do is you're gonna abandon any sense of self-preservation that you might have, and you're just gonna dump all of your ammo on whatever is in front of you. You're just gonna be that guy who runs in first and does like a ton of damage, maybe gets a kill or two, and you're just there to be that initial shock to the enemy team. And then once you're out of ammo, or if you get killed halfway through, then you've done your job. And it's actually really effective just because the amount of damage the autocannons do, and combined with the ease of use of dumping, like, let's see, like with these AS missiles, these fire 4 rounds at a time. So that means you're firing, with double slots, you're firing 8 missiles. So 8 missiles pretty much like every few seconds is really powerful, combined with like these autocannons. And then if you were to compare that with like, I think one of these fires 6, doesn't it? No, you'd want to use these ones that use more ammo per shot, because you'll just get more DPS out of it. So basically, yeah, you just want to dump as many missiles and as many bullets into the enemy as possible, and that's how you work on the suicide tank. And that's one of the more popular tanks, and it's actually pretty effective. Medium missiles, I guess you could use these two for the same build, although medium missiles have very little ammo. They're not particularly worth using in this game. They have decent damage but very low ammo, and that's their main drawback. And you could do the same thing with any of the stealth or short-range missiles, but the main drawback is that with those, you have to lock on. And if you're trying to dump as many missiles as possible, in other words, if you're just mashing the shoulder fire button, then you might not wait for a full lock of 6 missiles. And then also, short-range missiles and stealth missiles are a little slower, and they take longer to hit stuff, so they can be intercepted more easily, and they can be dodged, stuff like that. And it basically it doesn't help quite as much with the shower of bullets effect that you want to go for with a suicide tank. Although it can work, obviously, because you know it's missiles. Particularly notable missiles, like I said, would be like Jockey, Mathurus, which is this stubby-looking missile with the yellow tip. The A28. I call it Mathurus because everyone else calls it Mathurus, because that's what it was called in the previous game. Rockets would also work pretty well for the wall of damage effect if you're trying to build like a suicide tank, especially because since you don't care about self-preservation, you can just kind of keep focusing on firing down at your target. So rockets will work pretty well. I would probably recommend regular rockets because they have larger splash damage and they do more damage overall. But heat rockets could work well if you're accurate with them. Plasma missiles are more for like the mid, sort of like more defensive tank. They're not bad. They're more of like an anti-quad / anti-reverse joint / anti-lightweight type of thing, because they don't hit super hard, but they're fairly accurate and they do decent damage. They're pretty middle of the road overall, but they're not bad. So yeah, they're definitely not a bad choice if you intend to play at like a medium range of like 150 to 300 meters, maybe like 150 to like 250 meters. Those would work. For anything closer than that, you're probably gonna want either like one of like the nuking options of like the VTF for the large missile, or you're gonna want like the spammy option of the AS missiles or the stealth or short range missiles. That's the main problem with plasma missiles. They're not particularly spammy. They don't hit particularly hard. They don't have particularly high nuke potential because they don't do super high damage. And autocannons also are interesting in that because they're so versatile and they're just so good, you can actually put them on heavy tanks and they'll do their job pretty much just as well. Heavy tanks are sort of a lost art in this game, although if you could pull it off, then awesome. If not, then good luck. Hope you keep trying. But heavy tanks are definitely a lost art. If you can figure out how to make a heavy tank work, autocannons will work there. That kind of stuff. Usually you can pair like autocannons with heat cannons, autocannons with even sometimes like some weird stuff like rail guns or laser cannons, although laser cannons definitely no. But rail cannons maybe, regular cannons maybe, heat cannons yes, plasma cannons yes, although plasma cannons are also kind of a lost art. Like plasma cannons are basically like the energy version of an autocannon, and it's basically just like a big laser shotgun that you shoot at people over and over again. It's really dangerous, but it's possible to run into scenarios where the pulse cannon will be doing almost nothing, which kind of sucks. Heat cannons, because they're short range, high fire rate, they help a lot with super high DPS, and if you can stun lock someone with those, then I guess you'll be hitting them for a little longer. Howitzers are kind of similar, but they're super short range and require that you aim them manually, so I don't think they work quite as well. Usually if you use howitzers, you want to just use 2 howitzers. Or like a howitzer and something else crazy. Laser cannons, no. Sentry guns, no. None of that stuff. So yeah. Is there anything else I can say? I mean, I can talk about the generator for a little bit. Basically, this Makibashira Model 3 is, in my opinion, pretty much the only generator you should ever be using on a tank because it has the highest capacity and decent energy regeneration. And that's because tanks consume a lot of energy very quickly at one time. And so if you have a low capacity generator, or even like a moderate capacity generator in some scenarios, then you'll be dumping out your energy so fast that you just won't have any energy and you won't be able to do anything. You'll just be sitting there like, where's my energy? Yeah, and also tanks have a lot of load capacity, so they can carry this thing easily. The only other generator that is used like situationally is this 319 generator, and that's only for when you're trying to stack weight on like a specialized heavy tank, or if you're just crazy and you just like this generator. If you like this generator, then sure, go ahead. But the main reason to use this thing is because it weighs a lot and it's useful for trying to stack your recoil resistance stat over here on the right side of the screen. And your recoil resistance stat is important as a tank because if you get stunned, then you're not able to turn, you're not able to fire quite as effectively, and you're also going to be able to take more damage, which is not good for your life as a tank. Especially if you're a suicide tank. If you're a suicide tank, you want to have some recoil resistance, that way you can at least avoid being like hard stunned, and then you can fire back and keep fighting. Because if you get stunned and you can't move, then well, you're kind of fucked. And SCSs, you only want to use the E28 with autocannons unless you're using like some kind of crazy weird setup where you got like an autocannon and something else. For legs, like I said earlier, Foolish, LTB, LTA, those are the 3 legs you're going to want to use for most autocannon tanks. If you want to build a defensive one, then you really got to look at the numbers there. Also, I wanted to say the regular Foolish is pretty good. The modified Foolish looks really cool, but it's pretty bad because it gives up some of the speed. It gives up some of the speed that makes the Foolish really good. In fact, it gives up a lot of the speed that makes the Foolish really good. So yeah, it gives up a lot of the speed that makes the Foolish good. It makes the turning performance even worse. You lose recoil resistance, stability. You lose all those for a little bit of armor and a little bit of health. And now you could say, well, armor and health are great on tanks, and yeah, they are. But if you want to get better defenses, why not just use this funeral tank over here, which gives you better defenses all around, a lot more health, and you still get decent speed out of it. Although you lose more of the turning, but you get better speed and really high armor. So the funeral is not a bad leg. It looks cool too. Cores, whatever fits their build. Heads, pretty much whatever fits your build. Although most people will go for this this Betsy Ross head because it gives you good defense and good speed. Arms, like I said earlier, there's basically 2 good arms for autocannons. The only exception is if you're playing like if you're using like a large missile, or if you're playing like a defensive tank that has like a CAWS in it, then you don't really want or need the dual slot shoulders. So at that point, you would probably want to build like a tank with high CE defense and use like this arm right here, which gives you really high CE. So that's a good thing to remember. And I think that's one of like the many different types of builds that I made. And yeah. So now I spent 20 minutes rambling about sort of autocannon tanks in general. I'm going to talk about my particular autocannon tank, why I built it the way I did, how insane I am, how many times I've lost my mind. We'll talk about all that. So, in case you noticed, I've picked a very, very low defense, low bulk, high speed helmet, or head, to put on my AC. And usually that's not what you do with a tank. And the only reason I did that is because this allows my tank to get really high boost numbers. As in case you notice, the 272 high boost, that's pretty high for a tank. That's bordering on like heavy bipedal movement speed. Usually tanks are lucky to get above like 230 high boost. Like if I were to take off this head and switch it to like a KE head, yeah, you lose like 10-12 points of high boost in some scenarios. And if I were to change to like a different leg, like say I were to switch to the LTB leg, like right there I'm losing 16 points of high boost. If I were to switch to LTA, right there I'm losing like 50 points of high boost, right? So because the strongest point of the foolish is the speed, I decided to build entirely around that speed. And I was able to get a lot of speed out of this thing. Even though it's kind of, I mean, you could argue that it's weighed down by like the heavy missiles and the heavy cannons or whatever, but tanks aren't really affected by weight as much because they're so big already that the added weight doesn't really affect their movement speed. The only real drawback to the foolish compared to other tank legs is that if you look at the high boost energy consumption, you notice that the foolish is almost at 31,000, whereas the next highest one, the Salvador Keen leg, is at 25,000, or the LTA is at 24,000. And so the LTA is pretty effective at covering distance because it has such a low high boost consumption. And so the foolish, on the flip side of that, is not very effective at covering distance because it consumes more energy per second of time. So you're just going to burn through your energy a lot faster, although you are going to be moving faster for that shorter period of time. The other thing to consider about the other legs is that they have better turning, they have better jumping. Pretty much everything else about them is better, except for like that high boost speed. And the movement control is really important too. Although the LTB still has better movement control, which means that if for some reason you're moving around without your boosters turned on, then you'll be moving a little bit faster. Stationary turning is not too important on autocannon tanks because you need to keep moving really. If you have to stop and turn around because someone's behind you, then they're probably already going to do a lot of damage, especially with a tank this frail. In case you haven't noticed, the defense numbers on this tank are kind of low, primarily because I went with the foolish legs. If you were to go with the other tank legs, you would be able to easily build like sort of like 1500, 2000, and then like 3000 defenses. But with the foolish legs, you're pretty much doomed to have low CE. Although I think if I were to go with funeral, yeah, funeral helps a little bit. So with funeral and some CE parts, you could probably get like 2000 CE defense, which is really important because there's a particular battle rifle that pretty much all light tanks need to be scared of, for a very good reason, and that is the also it's known as the triple shot battle rifle, and this one right here, the H22, because that has 2036, and if you're not above that 2036, then this thing will eat you alive. Like, no shit, it will completely eat you. Especially if you're a tank or a heavy bipedal, you need to have enough defense to block this thing out, otherwise you're just crazy like I am. And quads and heavy versions obviously don't really care about this thing. Medium and light bipedals don't really worry about it as much either because they can dodge it fairly reliably. So that's important to know. So that's the main reason why you would. Those are all the reasons why you would not want to use the foolish legs, even though I chose to use them anyway. Because I like the way they look, I like the way they feel, I like their super high speed, and yeah, there's that. For the arms, I went for this because it basically gave me the best KE defense and also gave me dual slots and decent bulk. So It helps a lot with having okay bulk. On a side note, my AC has fairly low AP despite my attempts to give it some sort of bulk. It has like it barely has 41,000 AP, and most tanks are gonna have 45, 46, even bordering on 50,000 sometimes. And then when you got defensive tanks, those go up to like 55. Although it is possible to build a tank with like 62,000 health, but that's like a very specialized tank that uses a lot of parts that you would not normally use, and it's pretty bad. It's kind of hilarious, but it's not exactly something you would want to use. Core, I went for this because it gives me bulk, and it also gives me high energy conductivity. And I think that's about it. I basically went for it because it has higher AP than these two. That's the only reason I went for it. I wasn't gonna really improve my defenses anymore without having a CE core, and this one gives me the best health numbers, which helps me survive. So basically, in case you're noticing, I'm building this thing with really bad defense, decent health, and high speed. Like I said earlier with the head, I went for this because it gives me the maximum speed possible. It is literally the fastest head in the game. I think there are only a few very specialized scenarios where this head isn't fast, just isn't the fastest one in the game. I would not want to go for any of the KE or TE heads, basically for the reason of speed. Although this Umage head does consume more energy than usual, doesn't really matter that much. For Bay units, I went for the shield and the howitzer for basically one reason. And that's because I didn't really want to think too hard about what to put on my Bay unit, so I just put on something that I know would work. And so howitzer is cool because howitzers kill pretty much anything. You point at it, you hit it with a howitzer, you'll do some damage. They also don't require that you have an FCS. They don't require that you have any sort of supplementary weapons to back them up. You don't need to have reserve mags, you don't need to have a subcomputer, you don't need to have amplifiers, you don't need to have missiles really to back them up or anything like that. So it's really easy to just slap a howitzer on anything, and it works. So that's cool. They're real reliable, real easy to use, real powerful. And then the shield, you must be wondering, why the fuck do I have a shield on a tank that has really shit defenses, mediocre health, and high speed? What the fuck is the point of a shield? I'm not playing defensively. Well, basically the shield is there because originally I used to have actually 2 shields on the back of this thing. And so what I do is when I'm out of ammo, or if I have really low health and I'm like, fuck it, I'm done, then I drop my cannons, I pull out the shield, and I just kind of like run in for my suicidal last charge. And if I hit someone with a tank, you ram someone with a tank, they're dead. And so that's basically my last ditch attempt to get a kill, usually, in multiplayer matches. It helps a lot against UNECs too, because UNECs are really bad at dodging melee attacks. So if you get in on a UNEC and you hit them with, if you get in on a UNEC and you run at them with a shield, they're not going to realize, oh, he's running at me with a really large tank. I should probably move out of the way. So yeah, that's why I put the shield in there. It's a really fun, crazy alternative to like another gun. I used to have 2 shields on there, but it was kind of pointless to have 2 shields because I realized that the 1 shield is enough to protect me, and the howitzer can help me against like airborne units, like snipers or quads. Or, not so much squad, but like airborne units that would troll me all day if I tried to kick them. VTF missiles, I went for these because I like the way they feel. They're pretty good at the shortish range that I work at. They do really good damage per burst of missiles. They have really high ammo capacity, and they're reliable. They're real good. You point at someone with these, they'll die pretty quick. Autocannons, I went for a full power tune on these, although I could very easily go for the 1 power 2 accuracy or the 3 accuracy. The 3 rapid is not something you want to use, I'll tell you that right now. If you want to know why, then you might want to look at these, see that fire and accuracy number, see right there? See how it's at 50? That doesn't look bad, but it's pretty bad. I did some like actual damage tests. Like I did a lot of research on autocannons a while back, figuring out what type of tuning would be the best DPS wise, and I basically found out that like under 150 meters, the full power tune is stronger, and then between like 150 to like 250, the 1 power 2 accuracy is the strongest, and then outside of that, the 3 accuracy is the strongest just because it hits more often. And then the 3 rapid one, where's that one? That's this one. So the 3 rapid one just has such terrible accuracy that even at like sub 150 meters range, you're not going to be doing anything with it. So you might as well go for the full power tune. So that's the nice thing about the power tune. And so if you notice, I brought up a lot of these ranges in meters. And so basically my plan is to get into that 150, 200-ish meter range, preferably closer, and just unload everything. And so basically, I'm kind of playing this like a suicide tank, except I don't intend to die. I intend to like ambush people or focus on people that are like separated from the group. That way I can just do a lot of damage to them and then get out. The other cool thing is that since my tank is so fast, if enemy lightweights try to run away from me, or if I get a lightweight who's by himself, I can keep chasing him. He's not getting away. He's not getting away that easy. So I have enough speed where I can chase down lightweights, I can chase down mediums, I can easily catch and destroy heavyweights. So basically, I'm kind of like the paper tiger, because I have really good offense and really good speed, really shit defenses. So if anyone turns around and starts fighting me, then I better get the fuck out, because they're gonna kill me pretty quick, even though I'm a tank. So yeah, fun times in Tankland. Also experimented with this 2 power 1 accuracy one, but it's not really any better than any other ones. Most of what I did was like I basically got an immobile tank with a lot of health, and then I timed how long it took to kill it with all the different tunes. And I used the same tank over and over again, and I just stood at different ranges, trying to see at what range each cannon was better. Side note, if you're new to the game for some reason, and you're having a hard time playing through and you want to use an autocannon tank, the ACA 127 is basically the baby version of the 218, so it'll pretty much do the same thing, just not quite as good. It does less damage, but a little bit more accurate, I think, with a better reload speed. But the other thing is that, actually, no, I think it has a worse reload speed. But trying to remember, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, a point about autocannons in single player. Basically, unless you're doing a boss level, where like the pay is ridiculously huge, like say the final boss where you get like 1,000,000 credits every time you do it, the autocannons are very, very expensive to use in the field, because you're firing a lot of bullets and a lot of bullets cost money. So I would highly suggest that you avoid using autocannons for most of the single player missions, especially if you're fighting like a lot of like small weak enemies. Autocannons are just not going to do it, because you're going to run out of ammo, and you're gonna spend a lot of money on that ammo, especially because a lot of those shots are actually not gonna hit. Whereas in multiplayer, it doesn't really matter, because you get compensated for all of your ammo anyway by your faction. And in multiplayer, killing the other guy is more important than, oh, am I gonna run out of ammo, or how much is this ammo gonna cost? So that's the gist of my build, and the gist of my talk about autocannon tanks. Not gonna include any PvP footage in this, because I had a lot to say about autocannon tanks, because I was talking about a lot of various types of builds of autocannon tanks and how versatile they are. But I will do a quick AC test before I finish up this video. I'll do 2 actually. I'll do one against the no, the quad would be pathetic. I'll do one against the enemy lightweight, just to show how quickly I can shred lightweights with this thing, and then I'll do one against the tank to show how autocannons fare against other tanks, which, in case you're uninformed, they do pretty well. Alright, where is he? There he is. And so basically what you do, you find your target, you boost forward, and you kill it. In case you notice, his AP number is dropping very quickly. Yeah, so he died pretty quick. In case you didn't notice. Another thing you can do is, if you're really crazy, if you pair the high-speed missiles with the power-tuned autocannons, then you can actually stun someone, lock them in place, and then take advantage of their lowered defenses to do effective damage with autocannons. And autocannons already do really high damage even when they're just bouncing off of armor. So if you were to think about how much damage that's doing when it's getting like an extra 60 or 70% damage increase, it's a lot. I'll tell you that right now. Whatever's in front of you is going to get shredded. In fact, look, I could show you. I'll show you the quad anyway, just so you can see how fast you get shredded by effective autocannons. Your KE defense should never ever drop below 1300. If your KE defense is below 1300, you will die very quickly the second a tank finds you.
System combat mode. Energy at 30%.
Oh, he shut down my missiles.
Out of energy. System combat mode.
So yeah, as you can see, I'm doing quite a lot of damage here.
System scan mode.
And I also have pretty high speed for being a freaking tank. The only problem is that I go through a lot of energy very quickly, so I have to be really careful with what I do with my energy. And then finally, I'll show you the quad, just so you can, just as a public display of, remember your KE. Always remember your KE. KE never changes.
Combat mode activated. System scan mode. System combat mode.
Do you see his health number? Do you see how quickly his health number is declining?
System
Okay.
scan mode.
So that is why you always bring KE above about 1250 or so. Alright? Because I think power tune autocannons hit like 1236, and then with stagger they hit like 1600 or something like that. And then finally, just as a joke, I'm gonna show you my suicidal tank with the shields up,
System
just so you can see that it does in fact work.
activated. Purging.
Toss my cannons. And there he is. Alright, now I'm ready. Let's go. Damn it, I missed.
Energy at 30%.
Damn it. Missed again, damn it. I forgot that there's like a pretty long delay after you start boosting, where you can't do your boost kick. Let's get over here.
Energy at 30%.
Wait, what the fuck happened there?
Energy at 30%.
Whatever.
Purging.
Why are you being a jerk, autocannon tank? Or whatever the fuck you are? Why are you being a jerk? Why are you ruining my fun?
Energy at 30%.
Why are you being a dick? What is this bullshit? I gotta back off. Regen some of my energy because I used it all like a moron. Alright.
Energy at 30%.
There we go. That's a nice good hit. You see how he keeps sliding back after that ram? That was the fun part. Usually if you're not a moron like me and you actually land your kicks, then you can kill someone pretty quick with that. Especially if they're a tank or a heavy bipedal that has a hard time getting up in the air. But yeah, just case in point, if you send a giant hunk of metal flying at someone at high speed and then you ram it into their face, you will probably do some damage. So then, that was my blab about autocannon tanks. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk for whoever knows how the fuck long. And have a good day. Blow the fuck out of everything. If you'd like to do so with autocannons and missiles. And play Armored Core. Have a good day.